Welcome to the Artist's Way Week 1. I was hoping to be able to do this live, but no, it didn't quite work out that way. The first project is going to be a cover for a composition notebook. If you happen to be local to Sacramento, you can drop by Rock Mama Gallery and buy one of my Artist Way kits, and it will have a composition notebook and a cover ready to go for you. Like this, blank piece of paper. If not, you can use any journal you really want to. I like the composition notebooks because they are cheap, and by making the cover, I can just move the cover from one journal to the next one, because one composition notebook is not enough to get you all the way through the entire course. So if you've never done the Artist's Way before, one of the main tools of the Artist's Way is the morning pages. And I'm going to do some kind of quick reading of the book to talk about that. But first, if you are following along, you may want to pause, grab yourself scissors, a glue stick or two, and any items that you want to use for your collage. Cut out some main pieces. The trick of collage, I'm going to open this up so you can see the entire thing first here. Just pull it off of here. Is you want to start with the base, and the base should be larger pieces, broad. They can have designs, or they could just be swatches of color that were interesting. Backgrounds of magazines, of advertisements are really great, or things that have like artwork in the advertisement that you can just peel around the words and things like that. And then grabbing a few main objects from different things are fun. There's, backgrounds of different home things like that. And then I've also used washi tape along my edges. That's another way to kind of help hold things in place. You start with the lowest layer first. So you may want to actually lay them all out to kind of get an idea where you want things to go first. Or you may just want to build by layer and start with the bottom layer. But you also want to make sure that your layers go around the edges and to the other side. But you also want to be careful that you don't go over the edges and onto the flaps down, where if you've got it on the composition notebook while you're doing it, because you could accidentally adhere it to your composition notebook. So that's where it's helpful to take it off of there and do it in that particular case. And also be careful not to cover up over the areas where the flap has to fit into the little sleeve here. I did take my washi tape around the edge here so that it kind of holds it down a little bit, but it's not necessary. But you can also take your images around those edges too, just so that you don't have places that end up catch and fray or peel off over time. And of course, you can always just add more too. So nothing's saying you can't change it up or fix it or add more to it later if something starts to peel off, or if you find another image that you want to add on there. Another useful trick is find yourself a piece of scrap paper that you can put underneath the objects that you want to put on, so that you can use the glue stick. And here's an object I'm going to put on there. I'm going to flip it over, and I can take the glue stick right off of the edge of my object and not worry about gluing it down to the table or leaving a mess on the table. It will just end up on the piece of paper. Of course, be careful not to accidentally glue it down to your piece of paper. But because it dries quickly, I can reuse that spot again in just a few moments. And that way I get glue all the way to my edges. Place you right there. I've also added a couple items on here that are in black and white that I printed. I can later come in and color them and add markers over the top of this, or If you have paint that's not going to like rub off on things, then there's lots of different things you can do with that. Play with that. Stickers, little sticker jewels or puff stickers and things like that. Be careful about those because they can end up pulling off of there or tearing things too. So have fun with it. There's no right or wrong. Those are just some little tricks for making that work. And then sliding it in there. If you are making your own cover and you've never done one before or never had to cover a book before, you fold the bottom and the top edge of the paper first. So obviously you want a piece of paper that is taller than your journal and one that's also going to be longer than the width and the depth of both sides, and then enough to fold inside too. You want to also make sure that when you fold the top and the bottom, you give it a little bit of space so that it's not too tight. Otherwise, your little fold over flap is not going to have any space. So there's a little bit of wiggle room right here. So it's not like exact on that. It's just a little above it. So it's not exact to the width of this. It's just a little bit beyond on both sides. That way, when I fold this flap over, so it's just a folded over piece right there, it creates this little sleeve on the inside here that those flaps will fit into. And if it's wider than longer, taller than the length, then it slides in easily. Just like that. And of course, making sure you have nice creases on all your edges will make things lay flatter, but use over time will also do that. And if you've ever done the Artist Way with me before too, I also like to recommend little sheets of little stickers that are useful for rewarding yourself when you come to the end of your set of pages, or anytime you want to mark something to come back to later. And I will actually tape the sheets on the inside of my journal. That way it's easily accessible. Of course, you can do it in the back too, because then it kind of keeps them all held down either way. So The Artist Way by Julia Cameron it's pretty dated, but it still holds true. I've facilitated for many, many years this series. And as I was saying, one of the main tools of the Artist Way is the morning pages. And you will see in my book, I write lots of notes in the margins. And because of such, I will read bits and pieces to people. The first section talks about these basic principles or the tools, spiritual electricity, the basic principles. And what we're talking about when we talk about the Artist's Way, which, if you didn't read it, says a spiritual path to higher creativity, is we are talking about an induced or invited spiritual experience. I refer to this process as spiritual chiropractic. So we undertake certain spiritual exercises to achieve alignment with the creative energy of the universe. And on one of these main pages, and you see I've got it dog-eared here, read every day, the basic principles. That's also one of the worksheets that's on my website, and it's alongside, I believe, is that the one that's right alongside this guy right here, I think. No, that was besides the rules of the road, but I believe I also have another little sketch that I put next to the basic principles on the website. I don't think I included that one in the collection of items for the kit. But I will let you read through those yourself, because otherwise we'll be here forever with all of the different readings. What to expect. While there's no quick fix for instant pain-free creativity, creative recovery or discovery is a teachable, trackable spiritual process. Each of us is complex and highly individual, yet there are common recognizable denominators to the creative recovery process. And I will also say here then that next section is the basic tools. Like I said, the morning pages, which is 3 pages a day. It's automatic writing, so it is a brain dump. Notice my little sketch of a brain here, brain dump. So this is a stream of consciousness. Oh God, another morning. I have nothing to say. I need to wash the curtains. Did I get my laundry yesterday? Blah, blah, blah. They might also more ingloriously be called brain drain, since that is one of their main functions. There is no wrong way to do morning pages. These daily morning meanderings are not meant to be art, or even writing. I stress that point to reassure the non writers working with this book. Writing is simply one of the tools. Pages are meant to be simply the act of moving the hand across the page and writing down whatever comes to mind. Nothing is too petty, too silly, too stupid, or too weird to be included. The morning pages are not supposed to sound smart, although sometimes they might. Most times they won't, and nobody will ever know except you. Nobody's allowed to read your morning pages except you. And you shouldn't even read them yourself for the first 8 weeks or so. Just write 3 pages and stick them into an envelope. In this case, you can even paperclip them together or something like that to keep yourself from going back. Whatever works for you. I tend to clip my pen into the next empty blank page. One, so I know where I'm going, where I'm at, and 2, I always have a pen available with my journal. I also keep more than one journal in case I didn't get to my writing while I was at home, and maybe I have a few minutes at work during lunch. There's no place that's not usable to write a few pages. And then part of the morning pages is that we also really begin to unpack our inner voice, that inner critic, and kind of digging to the root of things for ourselves. Some of the best creative work gets done on the days when you feel that everything you're doing is just plain junk. The morning pages will teach you to stop judging and just let yourself write. So what if you're tired, crabby, distracted, stressed? Your artist is a child and it needs to be fed. Morning pages feed your artist child. So write your morning pages. 3 pages of whatever crosses your mind. That's all there is to it. If you can't think of anything to write, then write, I can't think of anything to write. Do this until you have filled 3 pages. Do anything until you have filled 3 pages. When people ask, why do we write morning pages? I joke to get to the other side. They think I am kidding, but I'm not. Morning pages do get us to the other side. The other side of our fear, of our negativity, of our moods. Above all, they get us beyond our censor. Beyond the reach of the censor's babble, we find our own quiet center, the place where we hear the still small voice that is at once our creator's and our own. And it talks about the censor, and I encourage you to go through and read, because I am not going to read this word for word. It is up to you as part of taking on the artist's way to read. I do encourage you, though, to find a group of people to go through it with together, or join us online. I have a Facebook group, and hopefully if I manage to figure out the whole YouTube thing, maybe I'll create a YouTube community or something like that. Drop me a comment if you have any ideas. And then the second part of it is what's it talking about? Oh, it talks about the contract. And where is my missed it? The artist date. Boredom is just what's the use in disguise, and what's the use is fear. Fear means you are secretly in despair, so put your fears on the page. Put anything on the page. Put 3 pages of it on the page. The artist date It may strike you as a non-tool, a diversion. You may see clearly how morning pages would work, yet find yourself highly dubious about something called an artist date. I assure you, artist dates work too. Think of this combination of tools in terms of a radio, receiver, and transmitter. It is a two-step, two-directional process, out and then in. Doing your morning pages, you are sending, notifying yourself and the universe of your dreams, dissatisfactions, hopes. Doing your artist date, you are receiving, opening yourself to insight, inspiration, guidance. But what exactly is an artist date? Don't mind my cats in the background. So, an artist date is a block of time that you make for yourself to do whatever it is you want to do just for you. Not bringing other people along. And generally speaking, it's something that you might have liked to do when you were a kid, or something that you've always wanted to do, but maybe you told yourself that was too silly, or you're too old, or you can't do that. Whatever. And as we start to do the artist's way, we kind of start to begin to build a list of ideas for ourselves. And by having a community, we start to find ideas and share ideas for each other as well. So, one of the tasks that I like to encourage is doing what is called an artist date poster. And actually, let me pull this off of here and show you what I have hanging in my studio. So one of these posters is artist dates. This one is not fully filled out, but here you can see I have examples. I have learn an instrument, find a drum circle, dancing, make fairy houses, creative gardening, plein air painting, air dry clay, fly a kite, hot springs, hiking, moonlight kayak, video game, paint models, build a fort, paint on my walls, writing prompts, short story challenge, poetry. So the list goes on and on. It's different for everybody. And, things will grow on here. As you see, I've left a lot of space for adding other ideas as they come to me, things that I want to do, take a class, it could be a lot of different things. Another one that we're going to be seeing in the tasks is imaginary lives. And as you can see, I've already begun that list, but I also have a lot of space on this poster waiting for more things here too. So, like I said, those are the two main tools you want to do. One artist date a week. You may even find smaller ways to encourage yourself to do little mini artist dates, or you may, plan bigger, more grandiose things for yourself. Take a retreat, or maybe you have a day out to go do something in particular, or go camping, or whatever it is that really fills your well for you. And the contract is in this section here, and I have taken the words from this contract and I have created a watercolor page which has a fire horse for the year of the fire horse. And next week I will actually pull this one out and show you watercolor techniques. So that's the plan for week 2 of doing the Artist's Way online here. So, and as I said, you can find this in the kit. I have not uploaded this image to the website yet, but you will find one that has some of my other older images, like this one, or the partial bird where you make the feathers. So even if you can't get to that, you could print to a heavier stock paper. I just happen to have a printer that is a large format printer, so that it will print to the watercolor paper, which is actually somewhat larger than the regular 8.5 by 11. Although you probably could take this and then cut it down, because the image itself is actually 8.5 by 11. Okay, and so this begins week 1, and I encourage you to read week 1 for this week. And What I do online is we do a check-in, because at the end of each chapter you will find a task. I also have on the website, let me pull my little folder out here, worksheets that are specifically from week 1. Let me put my thing back here. Oh, orientation is probably going to be weird on that one. I didn't think about that. Sorry, folks. So, for week 1, this is from one of the tasks. It says right here, task 6, which is time traveler log. And if I actually look at the week 1 tasks, six time traveler, list 3 old champions of your creative self-worth. This is your Hall of Champions, those who wish you and your creativity well. Be specific. Every encouraging word counts. Even if you disbelieve a compliment, record it. It may well be true. If you are stuck for compliments, go back through your time travel log and look for positive memories. When, where, and why did you feel good about yourself? Who gave you an affirmation? Additionally, you may wish to write the compliment out and decorate it. Post it near where you do your morning pages or on the dashboard of your car. I put mine on the chassis of my computer to cheer me as I write. So this one is Champions of Your Creative Self-Worth. I've given you a fun little podium with words of virtue down below that you can put there. You could write the name of the person on their column. If you happen to be so creative, you could do a little cartoony sketch of them, or you could, if you had a photo, you could glue a photo on there, or you just can go with their name. It doesn't have to be that special or anything like that, or you could draw your own little symbol that represents them or something like that. Just really depends on what your particular way of having fun with it is, or you could collage it. Now that you've played around with some collage, you could also add some collaging elements or cut these out and use them as part of a collage. So it just gives you something to play with. Then we have, going backwards in the numbers, task number 3, which is the Monster Hall of Fame. And this is actually a couple of different pages here because I also gave you a couple pages of monsters to play with. Lots of monsters out there. All right, and for that we have task 3 and 4, which deals with our Monster Hall of Fame. So back to tasks 3 and 4. So, time traveler, list 3 old enemies of your creative self-worth. Please be as specific as possible in doing this exercise. Your historic monsters are the building blocks of your core negative beliefs. Yes, rotten sister Ann Rita from 5th grade does count, and the rotten thing she said to you does matter. Put her in. This is your Monster Hall of Fame. More monsters will come to you as you work through your recovery. It is always necessary to acknowledge creative injuries and grieve them. Otherwise, they become creative scar tissue and block your growth. And then the other monster time traveler. This one is 4, task 4. Select and write out one horror story from your Monster Hall of Fame. You do not need to write long or much, but do jot down whatever details come back to you. The room you were in, the way people looked at you, the way you felt, what your parents did or said, or didn't say when you were told them about it. Include whatever rankles you about the incident. And then I remember she gave me this real fakey smile and patted my head. You may find it cathartic to draw a sketch of your old monster or to clip out an image that evokes the incident for you. Cartoon trashing your monster, or at least draw a nice red X through it. So I gave you, a little pot to throw them into, or box them, or throw them in the trash. Yeah, or you can put them in jail. So lots of options here to play with. So that means you are grabbing one of your monsters from the Hall of Fame here and throwing them there. Of course, you don't have to do any of those. I just picked those particular ones to make a worksheet for, and there's more than that here, of course, the tasks. And they do also make it easy for you to accomplish a couple of those tasks, because one of them is every morning, set your clock 1/2 hour early, get up and write 3 pages of Longhead Stream of Consciousness morning writing. Do not read these pages or allow anyone else to read them. So basically, they're just telling you, do your morning pages. So that already, if you've managed that, you have accomplished one of the tasks for week 1. Number 2 is take yourself on an artist date. So, as I said, once again, they have already made it easy for you to accomplish 2 of the tasks without even having to think about it. And so 3, 4, and 6 were the ones I wrote the different worksheets for. 5 was write a letter to the editor in your defense. Mail it to yourself. It is great fun to write this letter in the voice of your wounded artist child. To whom it may concern, Sister Ann Rita is a jerk and has pig eyes, and I can too spell. 7 is also some more time traveling. Select and write out one happy piece of encouragement. Write a thank you letter. Mail it to yourself or to the long-lost mentor. 8. Remember I was talking about imaginary lives? That's one of the posters here that I've created. And they will also bring this one up in tasks further on. So even if you don't start this poster this week, they will come up later too. If you had 5 other lives to lead, what would you do in each of them? I would be a pilot, a cowhand, a physicist, a psychic, a monk. You might be a scuba diver, a cop, a writer of children's books, a football player, a belly dancer, a painter, a performance artist, a history teacher, a healer, a coach, a scientist, a doctor, a Peace Corps worker, a psychologist, a fisherman, a minister, an auto mechanic, a carpenter, a sculptor, a lawyer, a painter, a computer. Yeah, she goes on and on. She gives lots of examples. And here we go. And whatever occurs to you, jot it down. Do not overthink this exercise. The point of these lives is to have fun in them. More fun than you might be having in this one. Look over your list and select one. Then do it this week. For instance, if you put down country singer, can you pick a guitar? If you dream of being a cowhand, what about some horseback riding? 9. In working with affirmations and blurts, very often injuries and monsters swim back to us. Add these to your list as they occur to you. Work with each blurt individually, turning each negative into an affirmative positive. And 10. Take your artist for a walk, the 2 of you. A brisk 20-minute walk can dramatically alter consciousness. Then, at the end of this is a check-in. And if you were just doing this by yourself, then you could write your answers to here. But these are the questions that I ask in my group every week. And it's how many days that we did the morning pages, and how was the experience? And then did you do your artist date? And, was it, how did it make you feel? What did you do? And then I don't really always ask about this one, but were there any other issues this week that you consider significant for your recovery? But that's something you can always, bring up in your comments in the group as well. So they're talking about affirmations too. This is also a major tool that they talk about in chapter 1. Your ally within affirmative weapons. As blocked creatives, we often sit on the sidelines critiquing those in the game. He's not so talented, we may say of a currently hot artist. And we may be right about that. All too often it is audacity, not talent, that moves an artist to center stage. As blocked creatives, we tend to regard these bogus spotlight grabbers with animosity. We may be able to defer to true genius, but if it's merely a genius for self promotion we're witnessing, our resentment runs high. This is not just jealousy, it is a stalling technique that reinforces our staying stuck. We make speeches to ourselves and other willing victims. I could do that better if only. Dot, dot, dot. As I said, I'm not going to read all of this, and I encourage you to read it. But they do talk about our censor, who, and it talks about how when we try to say something nice about ourselves, that negative voice will just pop up. Try picking an affirmation. For example, I blank am a brilliant and prolific potter, painter, poet, whatever you are. Write that 10 times in a row. While you are busy doing that, something very interesting will happen. Your censor will start to object. Hey, wait a minute. You can't say all that positive stuff around me. Objections will pop up like burnt toast. These are your blurts. Listen to the objections. Look at the ugly, stumpy little blurts. Brilliant and prolific, sure you are. Since when? Can't spell. You call writer's block prolific. You're just kidding yourself. An idiot. Grandiose. Who are you kidding? Who do you think you are? And so on. You'll be amazed at the rotten things your subconscious will blurt out. Write them down. These blurts flag your personal negative core beliefs. They hold the key to your freedom in their ugly little claws. Make a list of your personal blurts. It's time to do a little detective work. Where do your blurts come from? Mom? Dad? Teachers? Using your list of blurts, scan your past for possible sources. At least some of them will spring violently to mind. One effective way to locate the source is to time travel. And that is part of the tasks that it talks about. And just before you hit the tasks, we have a list of affirmations that you can use as an example and to get started. So you could always pick one of those to try writing out for yourself. I know affirmations feel hokey in the beginning, but that's part of that whole censor talking to us. And when we start to learn to actually talk positively to ourselves and start creating our own affirmations out of those blurts, it's very powerful. So far, my all-time favorite is I give myself permission to create. And that has a lot to do with holding myself back from actually doing things, making excuses before I can actually sit down and do something creative-wise. No matter how much I want to do it, I always have some form of excuse. But if I give myself permission to create, then that removes that block and I can go do the things I want to go do. So I hope this helps you, and I encourage you to read through chapter 1 and, of course, the introductions that talks about the tools of the Artist's Way if you've never done it before. And if you're just rejoining us, welcome. And I hope you found some useful information in this broadcast. And see you next week.